In the Appalachian Mountains, surviving 50 degrees Celsius isn't about bravery, it's about tight priorities and disciplined heat management. At that temperature, the body sheds warmth faster than it can generate it, wind turns exposed skin into an emergency, and small mistakes, like sweating, soaking a glove, or sitting directly on cold ground, can spiral into hypothermia or frostbite. The foundation of cold weather survival is simple and non-negotiable. Stop heat loss, secure reliable heat, produce safe water, then earn calories with minimal effort. The first rule is to treat shelter as a wind and ground problem, not a comfort problem. Wind is a heat thief. It strips away the warm boundary layer around the body and accelerates cooling dramatically. Ground is worse than it looks. Even packed snow will pull heat through clothing until the body fails. That's why a cold weather shelter is kept low and compact. A small volume is easier to warm. And lower profiles reduce wind exposure. The floor matters as much as the roof. A thick mattress of evergreen boughs, spruce or pine, works because it traps dead air. The same principle as insulation in a house. Compacting the snow platform prevents the body's heat from melting a thin layer that refreezes into an icy sink. A narrow entrance, a simple wind lip, and a controlled vent reduce drafts while still allowing moisture to escape, because wet insulation becomes useless. Fire is the second pillar, and in extreme cold it's more important than food. Fire is not only for comfort, it is a production tool. It makes water drinkable and available, dries fabric, keeps hands functional, and stabilizes morale. Efficient survival favors a small, controlled fire over a big, dramatic one. A large fire consumes fuel at a rate that can outpace your ability to gather wood, especially when every step in deep snow costs energy. The smarter approach is to protect flame from wind using rock, a snow wall, or a reflector, and to prioritize dry, standing dead wood, which holds usable fuel inside even after storms. Maintaining coals is critical. Relighting from scratch in high wind and super cold air can take precious time and calories. Stones warmed near the fire become a heat bank, slowly releasing warmth into the shelter space when the flame is reduced. Water management is where many people fail without realizing it. At 50 degrees C, dehydration still happens, often faster, because breathing cold air drives moisture loss, and exertion in heavy clothing pulls water from the body, but you cannot solve it by eating snow. Consuming snow lowers core temperature and forces the body to burn energy to warm it. The safe method is to melt snow in a container, which requires fuel, so efficiency matters. When possible, finding a spot where water still moves under ice reduces the fuel burden compared to melting large volumes. The biggest danger is getting wet. Spilled water on gloves, socks, or boot seams can freeze hard and strip heat aggressively. That's why careful handling, immediate drying, and storing water close to the body to prevent freezing are not good habits. They're survival requirements. Movement in extreme cold is a trap if it isn't controlled. The enemy isn't just freezing, it's sweat. Sweating soaks layers, collapses insulation, and sets up a deadly cycle. You feel warm while moving, then you stop, and your damp clothing becomes a refrigeration system. Skilled winter survival therefore looks slow and deliberate. You move at a pace that avoids overheating, vent layers briefly to dump heat, then seal them again. The goal is counterintuitive. You want to be slightly cool while walking, not warm, because warmth during exertion often means you're accumulating moisture that will punish you later. Food is necessary, but in deep cold, it must be acquired with a strict cost-benefit mindset. Chasing large game can burn more calories than it returns, and the risk of injury or getting lost increases with every extra kilometer. A practical strategy focuses on passive capture, snares, and simple deadfalls because they work while you gather wood or rest. Placement matters. Traps are set in natural funnels, brush tunnels, and track corridors where small animals must pass. Marking trap sites discreetly prevents wandering and reduces wasted time in poor visibility. When food is secured, the next step is maximizing return. Slow roasting near coals, making broth from bones, and drying thin strips in smoke for preservation. In extreme cold, waste isn't just morally wrong, it's strategically dangerous. Long-term survival depends on maintenance and repetition. Tools are force multipliers, and dull tools burn calories. Keeping a knife and hatchet sharp reduces effort, shortens exposure time, and makes every task safer. Boot seams, laces, and bindings are critical infrastructure. A small tear that admits moisture can become a frostbite hazard overnight. Simple improvised tools, like a fire-hardened digging stick, cord repairs, or a face wrap, address major threats: wetness, windburn, and energy loss. Organizing gear the same way every time reduces mistakes when fatigue and cold slow the brain. When a more stable shelter becomes available, like a cave or protected rock slit, the survival calculus changes. Natural rock breaks wind and moderates temperature swings, but it introduces a new risk: smoke and oxygen management. Safe practice keeps the fire low and closer to the entrance, maintains a controlled vent, and monitors airflow using smoke behavior. A bow and snow door can seal heat, but it must never eliminate fresh air. Moisture management also becomes crucial in enclosed spaces. Without ventilation, condensation forms, freezes, and gradually turns the shelter into an ice box. Night is the hardest phase because metabolism drops and movement stops. The goal is to preserve core warmth while preventing the shelter from becoming damp. A low, long-burning fire setup, thicker splits, fewer flames, pairs with heated stones as a reserve. Sleeping posture matters: chin tucked, limbs protected, minimal exposed skin. Many experienced survivors wake periodically to check coals and to confirm circulation in fingers and toes, because the line between cold and injury is thin and silent. Storm conditions impose a different priority. Do not travel, do not get wet, do not get lost. Visibility collapses, wind steals heat, and navigation errors multiply. The correct move is often to reinforce the shelter, secure extra fuel, ensure water access, and ride out the worst. When the storm eases, the first tasks are clearing the exit, restoring airflow, and re-establishing reliable routes, again without sweating. This is what real survival at 50 degrees XC looks like. Not dramatic heroics, but a controlled system. Insulation over comfort, routine over improvisation, small fires, dry layers, safe water, and low-cost calories. Every action is measured against one question: does it save more heat and energy than it costs? When that answer stays yes, survival becomes repeatable day after day, even in a world that freezes everything it touches.
Keep it close. Gotta last.
Local Ox White 5.